Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Soder Report. My name is Kyle Soder, and I am the host here on the Soder Report. Today, we're going to be breaking down the 49ers draft thus far, their day one and day two picks. I went live for their day one pick where they selected Mykel Williams. Today we're going to go more in depth on their day two picks. So we're going to talk a lot about Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, and Upton Stout. That's what we're going to be talking mostly about. A couple housekeeping items to get to just right at the start. I do want to start up an Oregon segment of this podcast, so I want to give some congrats to Derek Harmon, Josh Connerly, Dylan Gabriel, and Johnny Cornelius for going in the first 2 days of the draft, unlike Shedeur Sanders. Before we get to the analysis on Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, and Upton Stout, I want to first give a shout out to our sponsor, Elite Cacao. Head over to elitecacao.com and get your cacao-based supplements for your memory retention, cognitive ability, and mental focus. Head on over there and get your cacao supplements today. So, without further ado, I have the 49ers selections pulled up right here on NFL's Draft Tracker. So, yesterday, in the live stream, I talked about Mykel Williams. I was thrilled with that pick. I give it an A. I'm not going to go through and grade all these, but I love the pick with Mykel Williams. I think he's a high upside player with a high floor. I think he's got great measurables, great length, great arm length especially. And I think that as a 20-year-old, he's going to be doing a bit more growing into his body over the next year or so. One of the things I talked about with Mykel Williams over the next year is it's probably going to take some time to get him up to speed with the NFL level. I wouldn't expect Mykel Williams to step in day one and have the same sort of impact that Nick Bosa had back in 2019 when he was a rookie. Nick Bosa was a lot more polished. He was older, and he had, of course, an older brother that had been to the NFL already. So Mykel Williams isn't going to have that sort of impact. I actually see a scenario where 20-year-old Mykel Williams, that's important to keep in mind as he's only 20, but I think there's a scenario where he has an underwhelming 2025 season. The fan base turns on him, they decide they don't like him, and in 2026 he comes into the season in better physical shape and just balls out. I could definitely see that happening. But he's got great length. The NFL comp that I've heard a lot over the past couple days is Aldon Smith. The measurables match up, but I don't know if that's really fair to put that sort of expectation on Mykel Williams right now. I don't like to give any of these guys comps. I will throw out what their NFL comp is, but I don't know if it's fair to give these draft prospects comps. Mykel Williams, his comp is Mykel Williams. There's not going to be... He's the only Mykel Williams. He's not going to be the next Aldon Smith. Nick Martin isn't going to be the next Dre Greenlaw. These guys are just going to be them. So I won't do. I'll throw out who their comp is, but keep that in mind. We're talking about Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, and Upton Stout. It's not Alden Smith, Dre Greenlaw, K'Wan Williams. It's not those guys. These are four completely different individuals from what we've ever seen in the past. So that ends my time on the soapbox, I guess. But Michael Williams, great length, great athlete. He's very fast. He's a lot faster than Nick Bosa, which I talked about how that complements him well. His pass rush needs to develop a little bit more. And he needs to develop some more pass rushing moves, but his run defense is right where it needs to be. He's a great run defender. At the University of Georgia, he played what's called a 4-eye technique most of the time, where he would line up inside of the right or left tackle. And the reason why that's interesting is because the 49ers run the wide 9, where the edge lines up way outside the tackle. So it should be easier for him to play that position as lined up outside the tackle. But it could cause some issues with spacing on the inside. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think it'll help him more than it'll hurt him, but there probably will be an adjustment period with that as well. Okay. So, like I said, I talked about Michael Williams already yesterday. I will continue to talk about him in the future. Let's go to Alfred Collins, D tackle out of Texas. I liked this pick as well. I thought it was perhaps a little bit of a reach. Here you've got the very long arms again. He's a good size for the wide 9 at 332 pounds and 6'6". So he is going to eat up space at that defensive tackle position. If the 49ers had taken a guy like Walter Nolan and paired him with Alfred Collins, I think that would have been a good compliment. In my pre-draft stuff, I talked about Walter Nolan potentially being the best D tackle in this draft, but in the wide 9, you would want to pair him with a bigger guy. This would fit that. Bottom line is, the Niners had their choice between Nolan and Michael Williams. They chose Michael Williams, a good run defender. They choose Alfred Collins with their second pick, who is also a very good run defender. His production score, as you can see, is much better than his athleticism score. His vertical jump, only 26 inches. Ooh, there's the breakdown on Alfred Collins. Am I going to get I might get in trouble if I play that. But, yeah. So, they have him graded out to be eventually an average starter. I think he definitely has the potential to be better than that. I really liked Alfred Collins. There were a couple other guys on the board that I might have rather gone with. It was a little bit of a reach, but at the end of the day, the 49ers got a good run defender with Alfred Collins. Here's the overview on him by Lance Zierlein. He says about Collins, Collins isn't going to stand out in one particular area, but he plays hard and has outstanding physical traits to blend right into an NFL defensive rotation. He's quick laterally to spoil landmarks for zone blockers and has the stride length to disrupt upfield if asked. He added mass in 2024 and was harder to move when his pad level was right, but he can be tardy to shed and tackle a gap over. He has the traits to become a more consistent NFL rusher, but the production is still untapped. He's not a premier playmaker, but he has the size, talent, and alignment versatility to help fortify a defensive front as an early contributor and future starter. His strengths are he has an A+ body type with well-proportioned frame and premium length, responds instantly to mirror lateral steps by blockers, widens base and sets his anchor to beat back double teams, at his best when allowed to stack blocks and man his gaps. He's at his best when he's allowed to stack blocks and man his gaps. Long arm move swims protection to access the edge. Should become a more consistent bull rusher with work. Keeps eyes on quarterback and bats down passes. So, as of right now, he sounds like the greatest football player in NFL history. I'm with the boy again today. He's been doing pretty good for the past 11 minutes, but, Anyway, he sounds like the greatest player in the history of the game right now. So let's take a look at his weaknesses. Average first step explosiveness into blockers. Plays with inconsistent base width leading to imbalance. Can be a step slow to shed blocks and tackle his gap. Just throwing that out there. Knee bend and pad level can get away from him in both phases. Leggy and labored when working edge to edge as a rusher. He's a legit specimen. With the right coaching, he could end up taking off and becoming the best interior player in this class. Wow. So there it is, a quick overview on Alfred Collins. I wish I could show some of his All-22 film on here, but I've heard that is heavily frowned upon by YouTube. These first two picks, I think, are really interesting for the 49ers. Jed York on his Twitter has been talking a lot about Robert Saleh being back in the building, really gassing him up. The 49ers media make sure to include Robert Saleh in all the pictures that they're posting to the public. That's interesting to keep in mind when you consider Shanahan is going into year 9, and they have Saleh at DC and Gus Bradley on the coaching staff as well. I've been saying this, and I don't know how many people really take it serious, but I think that Shanahan and Lynch are both on the hot seat. I don't think they have a very long leash at all this year. And if Shanahan were to get fired mid-season, Robert Saleh would definitely step into the head coach's place, and Gus Bradley would step into Robert Saleh's place, and the coaching staff wouldn't even miss a beat. So that's just a little conspiracy theory coming out from me. Like I said a few different times, I think that this team should win 10 games this year. I think that's what the expectation should be from the fan base and from the ownership. But we don't need to go too deep into that right now. The important thing is Robert Saleh seems to be heavily involved in this draft process. It seems the 49ers have acknowledged that they have a huge issue with their run defense, so they selected Mykel Williams, a good run defender, Alfred Collins, a good run defender. Both can develop their pass game, but both are great run defenders right now. So, with that being said, let's move on to Nick Martin. The 49ers picked him at 75, and there were some other linebackers on the board that they decided to pass up. This guy, I think he was slated to go around the 5th round. Okay, draft projection was round 4. So, they took him a little bit early here. I think that edge out of Ole Miss, his first name is Princely, and his last name is really long. It's escaping me right now. But he was there, as well as Jordan Birch. But they decided to go with Nick Martin at pick 75. I think Nick Martin is a good player. I do think that it was a reach at 75. A lot of people have comped him to Dre Greenlaw. Again, I said my piece on the comps. This is Nick Martin, not Dre Greenlaw. But I see where they're coming from. He's a little bit smaller. He's only 5'11", and he's only 221 pounds. But everything else about him looks really good. Everything else about him looks really good. Look at this athleticism score. That would have ranked as the 5th best linebacker just in terms of raw athleticism. His production was still earned a good score at 70, but it's that athleticism score that was really special. He ran a pretty quick 40. He ran a 4.53. He had a 38-inch vertical, and he went for 26 reps on the bench press. Okay, so getting down into the draft projection. 2-year starter who missed a big chunk of the 2024 season with a knee injury. Martin's career snap experience is relatively low, but his monstrous 2023 production is eye-catching. He too frequently misreads play design or fails to locate the football, which leads to badly missed run fits. He gets stuck on blocks, but has the speed and athleticism to pile up tackles when he stays clean. He can blitz, but struggles in coverage, so shining on special teams might be mandatory for Martin to make a team as a backup. Ouch. Ouch. That's not a very kind overview. Okay, so strengths. Award-winning tackle production in 2023. Physical player with a twitchy trigger to the play. Burst to close and tackle runners on second level. Will rush downhill and challenge plays in the backfield. Bend and base strength to play under the block. Capable of heating up the pocket as a blitzer. Weaknesses. Below average size for an NFL linebacker, right? Bold up front. There it is. Instincts and play recognition fail him. Stays glued on climbing blockers. Misses too many tackles in space. Struggles to make a difference in coverage. Missed most of the 2024 season with a knee injury. So, most people comp him to Dre Greenlaw. Reading through this overview, he sounds a lot like D. Winters rather than Dre Greenlaw to me. With all the injury concerns and the poor instincts and missing tackles in space. That sounds very, very D. Winters-esque. That sort of is MO at this point. But he does have great athleticism. I don't mean to sound like everyone else when a guy like this is drafted, but it is true that with a guy like this, a coach is getting clay. He's getting clay to mold into whatever he wants Nick Martin to be. And we know the last time, we know when Robert Saleh was in here 6 years ago, he got Dre Greenlaw, and he was able to mold him into a very good linebacker. So, it's interesting. You could have gotten some other players, such as Jordan Birch or Princely. Let's see who else went right after him. There were a few players that I wanted that went right after him. Here are the picks, round 3. Okay, we picked Nick Martin at 75. Siobhan Revel would have been a great corner to have. Princely Umanmielen, that's the guy I'm mainly disappointed we missed out on. I didn't think he'd be there at 75. I talked in my last episode about how much I like Jordan Birch. So, there were 3 good players right there that you missed out on. You passed up Dylan Fairchild, a guard at Georgia that could have stepped in and played day 1 at left guard. You passed up I didn't expect Jamari Caldwell to go that early either. But you passed up Jared Wilson, who could have been a developmental piece at center or stepped in at guard. You passed up Xavier Watts, who would have solved your safety issues immediately. So there were a lot of people that you reached for Nick Martin. You could have picked from any of those people and still gotten Nick Martin in round 4 or even round 5 probably, but we'll call it round 4 since he got that grade. So the last player the 49ers select at pick 100 is Upton Stout. And to be completely honest, this guy wasn't even on my radar, so I haven't watched any of his film. So take everything I say with a massive grain of salt. But the fact that he wasn't on my radar and I haven't watched film on him goes to show that I didn't expect that Upton Stout would be a day 2 pick. That most publications didn't expect him to be a day 2 pick. He is a corner out of Western Kentucky, and it's pretty clear that he's being brought in to play the nickel. It's clear because Jed York pretty much said it. he threw out some cheesy line about nickel right before they drafted him, which, whatever, man. But let's take a look. Let me just show you how small this guy is. He's only 5'8" and a half, and he's only 180 pounds. He does have good arm length for a corner at 30 inches, but look at all these scores. His production score is below average. Athleticism score is below average. But I will say that some of these combine results are pretty interesting for a guy like Upton Stout. He ran a 4.44 in the 40-yard dash. He ran a 1.51 10-yard split. He had a 37.5-inch vertical jump and a 10-foot 8-inch broad jump, as well as a 4.29 second 20-yard shuttle. And despite his small frame, he put up 21 reps on the bench press. So it was an impressive combine. It's obvious this is the nickel corner, so it's going to be Diamador Lenore on the outside, Renardo Green on the outside, and then this guy at the nickel, 60% of snaps. I was really hoping that they would go Kobe Bryant here. I was really excited about Kobe Bryant, and I felt like that would have made your secondary more versatile. I think Kobe Bryant is I can't say this with all certainty, but I know that Kobe Bryant is a great player. I know most other publications have him graded as a better player than this guy. There it is right there. Draft projection round 6 or 7. If you had gotten Kobe Bryant, you would have been able to slide either Lenore or Renardo Green inside. And you would have just been able to play whatever matchup you like best that way. But they go with Upton Stout, so they're going to have solidified roles in the secondary, which that has its pros as well. So, let's go over the overview. He is an undersized corner who spent much of his time playing wide corner. That's interesting. Stout has the twitch and athleticism to project inside. Okay, there it is. What he lacks in length, he makes up for with his competitiveness. He's a natural pattern reader with the hips and feet to match breaks without giving up much separation. There are times he fails to trust his cover talent, holding and grabbing without cause. He's fairly instinctive and has the short area burst to squeeze throwing windows. Stout's physical profile could hurt his draft standing, but the determination and athleticism will be hard to ignore. Strength, smooth in his back pedal and transitions from pedal. Loose hips swivel easily for sudden turns in coverage. Anticipates route breaks and runs the pattern with them. Searches for playmaking opportunities with his eyes forward. Plays with quick trigger feet and a healthy burst to close. Competes versus hard to beat blocks and throws his body around as a tackler. Weaknesses: mistimes early acceleration to stay in phase with deep routes. Aggression turns into unnecessary grabbing. Inconsistent in locating the football with his back to the action. Great. We're gonna see more slot fades on third and 18. We're gonna see some more slot fades in the 49ers special where the corner can't find the ball and they commit a pass interference penalty. Anyway, Anyway. Gets caught on receiver's hip, limiting pass breakup chances. Has struggled with coverage discipline, leading to busts. He will have some missed tackles due to a lack of length. Okay. So something on that I didn't see on here that I've also heard is this guy's also really determined in the run game. He's willing to come downhill and make a play on a running back. The issue is a lot of times he bounces off the running back is what I've heard, because small guy. The comp a lot of people have for him is, I said his name earlier. Why can't I remember his name? K'Waun Williams. The comparison a lot of people have to Upton Stout is K'Waun Williams. So if he turns out to be that, then great. But you could have had some other, like Nick Martin, I feel like you could have had some other players that were better. And you could have circled back to this guy later if you really wanted him. But tomorrow, day 3 starts, and especially when you get, day 3, there's really no such thing as a reach, especially when you get past the 4th round. The 49ers are probably going to have a good plan for who they pick at 113, but really I'm not going to critique them for reaching for a player tomorrow. It's just go out and get the guy you want at this point, because at this point of the draft, everyone's draft board is so different. So I wish you could have gotten these two, Nick Martin and Upton Stout, later on day 3, but I think that they are good prospects. I think that they are intriguing prospects, and I'm interested to see what Robert Saleh can do with these guys. I also think that all of these prospects fit with the 49ers timeline. Obviously, Mykel Williams and Alfred Collins are going to be on the field. Nick Martin, probably going to be on the field. And Upton Stout, we'll see if he gets on the field. The cornerback room isn't very deep either. It's going to be him or Darrell Luter. But we'll see. But we'll definitely see them in the preseason, and we'll get a good idea of who these guys are and what they bring to the 49ers when we see them then. And we'll start to have sort of a vision of what Robert Saleh sees for these guys. So, very interesting 2 days from the NFL draft. The 49ers go with 4 defensive players. You wonder when they're going to address running back and wide receiver and guard, because those are 3 positions on offense that they need to address. They also still need to address safety on the defense, as well as they need another defensive tackle as well. So, only time will tell, but I really liked, I loved Mykel Williams. I liked Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, Upton Stout. Little more skeptical on, but we'll see what happens. And I'll be breaking down the draft as a whole. I'll also be doing a Oregon Ducks spring game post-spring game stream tomorrow. Really excited to see the Dante Moore to DeCorian Moore connection. interested to see what their secondary looks like now that they lost everyone. And we'll break all that down tomorrow. But we'll break day 3 of the draft down tomorrow too. So join us here on the Soda Report again tomorrow for analysis on day 3 of the draft. We're going to get into some Giant stuff as well. They lose a crappy one to the Texas Rangers tonight. But that's all I've got for now. See you guys tomorrow.